Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live, and we are now looking at Blender 2.8. We're gonna continue with our explorations with Blender 2.8, and I will be looking at some of the modeling tools, uh, specifically polygon modeling tools. So let's just open Blender 2.79 and Blender 2.8. I always have both of them open because I still need to compare how things are different between the old Blender and the new Blender. So by default, of course, we already, as usual, we have the 3D cube, camera, lamp, the usual thing. Blender 2.8, of course, is always a little bit darker, but that's okay. Let's replace this cube with a grid. So I'm gonna delete it real quick. If you don't know, delete is X. Hotkey is X in Blender. Sometimes you also want, if you forgot the hotkey, you can always tap spacebar and then search for command and just find what you need. That's the Blender operators. So in this case, today I will be using grid. So just create a grid. And for every tools, I think in Blender 2.8, you can see there is this options right here. In the past, it's more like when we create like a grid, the options is over here on the panel itself. We can like toggle the generate UV and whatnot. We don't need to worry about that for now. Okay, 10 by 10 grid, that's fine. In Blender 2.79, turn on wire this way. I like to have wire while in object and in edit mode. And so yeah, in here as well, I will turn on the grid, the wireframe over here. Okay, apparently in the 2.8 we need to turn it on over here on the 3D viewport and also under here somewhere. Wait, it's slightly trickier. Oh, actually, of course, it's under the object and viewport display and wireframe. Draw the edges. I still can't see it. Anyway, if we switch to the edit mode tab, yeah, we can see the wireframe in this mode at least. And I will kind of go through each and every tools in 2.8, I think. So we have the usual transform, grab, rotate, scale. I don't need to worry about that. There's this add cube. Add cube is pretty new. If you don't have anything in here, you can use this add cube and you can draw cube really quickly. Yeah, that might comes in handy if you like to draw cube, but for what we are doing, we don't need to worry about that. Let's just continue with the next one. There's an extrude region, and if we hold over it, we can see more options. Extrude region by individual extrude cursors. But basically, the way it works, I think we select maybe like a face, and then if you want, we select the face using right mouse button, RMB, and then if you want to extrude it, just use left mouse button and then pull it. It didn't work just now. We need to switch to the tool. So select the face using right mouse button and then pull it up like so. So select and pull. So it's actually, we can actually do it a couple of times, I think, by pulling the yellow arrow. So this is yeah, that's how it works. There is no options to kind of scale it at this point, but we can always scale it like that and then pull it up, scale it out. So this is like a good practice if you're a beginner in Blender. I have to admit I don't do like manual modeling much yet using Blender, but this is really handy. And for every tools, like in this case, extrude is normally, I think it's the hotkey is E, so I can just tap E. That's normally like Blender artists like to use hotkey because it's a lot faster after a while. But you can start with a tool, I guess. That's interesting. Selecting this, and yeah, okay, that works. Maybe that's a little bug. Anyhow, continue with the next one. Inset faces. As usual, maybe select a face, and then inset, and then drag it using left mouse button. Oops, that didn't seem to work. Inset faces with the face selected. There you go. Select a couple of face, inset. That's really handy actually. And you can see also there's a lot of option here. There is a depth. That's really handy. Definitely, you're gonna use that a lot. And with this option selected, you can also select the outer, for example, or select the outset. That's handy because you can do this and then you can continue with the inset and then maybe offset it. So that's giving you that kind of look. All right, so that's inset faces. There is a bevel. Okay, bevel, maybe if we are extruding and then we do the inset and then we do the depth and select the outer and then we use the bevel. Just use left mouse button. If it's too big, just hold shift and that's kind of giving you kind of a smaller value. So that's things with bevel. Sometimes really sensitive. Okay, that's the bevel. Whenever you do something like a function, like modeling functions, there's this, you can still make a change after the fact. So that's also kind of handy to know. All right, so let's continue with the next one. There's a loop cut, there's a knife, loop cut and knife. I used this before and basically you can easily make a cut. You can see there's a purple line there. It's really hard to see, but horizontally or vertically, depending on the model. And then you can kind of use the mouse wheel to scroll and then you can get a lot of more divisions and you can tap and it's done. Actually, it's not done. You can still slide it. Maybe you can even scale it at this point. Not sure. Tap. Okay, done. So you can still control the number of cut. There's a smoothness value. Okay, that's interesting. That's new for me because I don't use it much. Yeah, we cannot control the placement, I don't think, but that's really handy with the toggle of the smoothness. Very cool. So that's loop cut, and there is knife. Knife actually cut wherever you click, it's gonna make a cut. And then if you tap enter, that's finished. This thing doesn't have much of options. It's simply just doing a cut. But you can go around it and then hit enter and it's gonna try its best to cut it. So that's a cut, and then there's a poly build. I don't use poly build much, but Whoa. This is like if you are drawing using polygon, I think. I don't use this much. What I use often, however, if I delete everything, if I create like a cube, and then I go to edit mode, hitting tab, and then I will go to vertex mode, tap spacebar, and then merge everything into center. I get just a single dots. I can use like a control click, 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 click. So this is really, really handy. I used to do this when I first used Blender. So because you can easily like extrude points, or like control click, click, click. Normally that's how it works. See, I just make another face. It's really hard to see, but that's really cool because with this edge you can then just turn it into skin modifier, and you can adjust the scale, control A, yeah, something like that, but that's for another video, I guess. So continue with this. We have spin, smooth, edge slide. They're not very interesting, but a rip region is what I'm interested in. I just learned earlier that rip is actually a really funny one, because if we select like edges, or we select a face, logically we should be able to rip it because we are ripping the region, right? It says cannot rip selected faces. That's funny. Why? I don't know. Maybe the tool is not yet made to work this way. We can also select rip edges, and then I try to select edges, a couple of edges, and then try to rip it, and it also doesn't seem to work. I don't think. Nah, doesn't work. So the way I think it works is if you have a shortcut, if you select a bunch of faces and you type, just tap Y button, that's gonna kind of rip the face, and if you tap G, grab, you can kind of rip it out. I think that's how it's supposed to work. But I think with the tools like this, it should just rip the face whenever it's needed, like separating the face. That's how I think it should work, but we don't know. We can of course do the bridging and stuff, but the bridging is in another tool. I believe it's an add-on, but for now we don't need to worry about that. We can learn to rip edges simply by using hotkey also. So select a bunch of edge, just tap V. V is the rip edges. So that's also super handy. And if you connect, normally to do like a simple bridge between edges, you just tap V. That's gonna connect the face. So Blender, of course, is famous for hotkeys, especially if you do Blender modeling. And Blender hotkeys, even though there's like a lot of hotkeys, after a while, it's just you just get used to it. Even though I'm not like a real modeler, but I kind of get it. But normally, if I can't remember the tool hotkey, I just tap spacebar and then search for the commands. That's also really handy. Like this bevel, see? I don't need to remember the hotkey. I just tap spacebar and then type in the value. Oh, that's interesting. So a lot of options for each and every tool. Even though I have to say, like, lots of modeling tools, of course, it's not, because this is not Maya, this is not Houdini in Blender. In Blender, the modeling tool is of course different, but you can't expect it to be the same anyway. But it's pretty powerful and really good Blender modeling, like modeler. can really use the tools to make 3D models, any 3D models. I mean, any 3D package like Blender, Maya. I think Houdini is a little bit trickier if you're doing modeling, but Blender is pretty powerful for modeling. And yeah, I guess that's covering most of this polygon tool. Probably I need to at some point like doing a proper modeling, but yeah. So let me now jump out of this. And one more thing, I guess I'm gonna show you. There's a sculpt tool in Blender, of course, and with the sculpt, especially with the dynamic sculpt, you can do something really cool. We don't have it yet, but in older Blender, of course, you can just go to the sculpt mode and enable the dynamic topology. That's actually one of my favorite. You can just add detail as needed. Really powerful. So we don't have it yet, I don't think, with 2.8. So that's something to be expected in a few months when Blender 2.8 is becoming official. So I guess I prefer sculpting. I used to be like I think I can say pretty good NURBS modeler, but with polygon I'm kind of okay. Sculpting is interesting. I use a bit of sculpting, but for sculpting later on you need to do the topology if you want to animate a model. But that's I guess a lesson in itself. So let's get back to the object mode. So yeah, you can do normal now polygon modeling and then sculpting, and there's a lot. If you really want to get into 3D, of course you need to understand all this. Modeling is probably the first, and then later you want to learn how to do the UV texturing, and then maybe lighting, and then also other things like start to create bone, skeleton, armature for animations. That's like, yeah, a lot of different areas in 3D. So 3D, some parts, of course, it's become like any art form. It's gonna take a while for you to understand how to produce a real art. But Blender is a powerful tool. I really like Blender as a tool personally. It can be compared with other bigger and more expensive 3D package. Blender, of course, is free, and then you can give donations whenever you want. But yeah, as an open source tool, Blender is really powerful, and Blender 2.8 is something I'm really looking forward to. 2.8. You might know from my previous videos, I normally work with a lot of nodes. And that's a different kind of method of modeling. So like with I'm using add-on called SphereChalk, and with SphereChalk you just create a node, and then you just you generate the nodes, and then you do the extrusion inside the nodes. It's really it's a different way kind of modeling, but I enjoy this working. I enjoy working this way. This is more like Maya or Houdini. In Houdini or Maya, you can actually access the face from here and then create another node. So you can do that. It's kind of similar method in SphereChalk, but yeah, but it's something to look forward if 2.8 or maybe Blender 3.0, maybe one day Blender become like more nodes everywhere and more procedural, then it's gonna be much more exciting. So with this guy right here, there's one more thing that I want to be able to see the edges. So okay, apparently I activate it from here and then also from here anyway. So I probably already did it before. Selecting all. Option A, it's becoming the new hotkey, I think, for that. So let's see Suzanne, for example. If I want to see the wireframe, okay, it's actually here. well, maybe not there, over there. So this wireframe, normally it's actually from here. Anyway, that's new. So cool. It looks much more beautiful though in 3D viewport with this wireframe. You can go really close, and the wireframe is really smooth. That's really nice. Alright, so in this video we kind of cover all the basic of the polygon modeling. It's just you need to get used to it. There's a few hotkeys like F to connect, but yeah, it's very interesting. Just if you're new to 3D and new to Blender, just get used to all this terminology like vertex, edges, polygon face, and these are some of the basic modeling tools. Of course, there are a lot more. Like there are tools that's not here, but it's somewhere up here too. That such as there's a poke tool. So I couldn't find poke, for example. But if I tap spacebar, search for poke, I can do a poke face. And poke face. Wait, I just did two tools. Let's do it again. Select face and then poke, and then look at the tool. You can offset it. So that's poke. So that tool is almost kind of hidden. So there are a lot of Blender tools add-on out there to help you with modeling, and this is just some of the preview to get you started. If you ever want to get into Blender 2.8, like I said, it's still alpha. It's gonna change over time, but get used to all this cursor. Get used to how to rotate using shortcut, RX, RY, RZ, scaling, G for grab. All those should be like a kind of second nature after you use Blender for a while. So there you go. That's a quick look. Hopefully you enjoy this one. It's a kind of improv kind of recording. Hopefully you enjoy this. And so yeah, I guess I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.